Okay, so we're going to show you how to make a pivot table in Excel. In statistics, we usually refer to these as frequency tables, but in Excel, they're called pivot tables. So let me show you my Excel screen. So here we have a set of data, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to make a pivot table of this age variable. I want to know how many people are in the survey between 20 and 40. I see another value of 40 and 60 and so forth. So I want to know how many people are in each category. So I'm going to highlight the variable I want to include in my pivot table. I'm going to select under the Insert tab, Pivot Table. This will highlight the values that I've highlighted. If I have highlighted all 4 of these columns, then it will show all 4 columns here. Since I'm only using the one variable, I'm going to leave this alone. I'm going to select existing worksheet since my data is not like huge. And I'm going to select the location where I want the top corner of my pivot table to start. Then I'm going to hit OK. Now, if I had selected all of the data, I would have more variables here. But since I'm just working with age, then only age appears here. If I check this box, the default is going to be to put age under the rows, which is what I want, as the vertical display of the column is of the data is more typical. I could, if I wanted instead, to drag this variable to columns instead, and then the data would appear horizontally. But I'm going to go with the default because that's more standard. I'm going to click on this arrow and uncheck the blank box because I don't have any missing data. And then I'm also, in order to get the counts, the frequencies that I want, I'm going to drag age into the values box. And so now I have my frequency table. And then I can close this because I'm done using it. So frequency table, straightforward, easy. If I'm counting a categorical variable, so one that's measured with words, the default will be to go to count. Where you'll have to be careful about this is if you're counting a numerical variable, because the default may be to go to sum, in which case that's bad. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to show you how to change these counts into frequency as percentages, relative frequencies. And while I do that, you'll see how you can also change this from sum to counts if indeed you are ending up counting a number and you don't want to count the number, you want to pick the frequency. So I'm going to make another pivot table. So just to show you this process again, I'm going to, this time I'll highlight all of the data just so you can see what it looks like. Again, go to Insert, select Pivot Table. Now you see all of the data is here. For the existing worksheet, I'm going to click on here. So the new location for my pivot table. And now you see all of the data shows up here, but I'm still just going to click on age, and I'm also going to drag age to values and uncheck blank. Now these are still counts, but the way that I change this is down here in the bottom, I select count of age, this little arrow right here, and then I select value field settings. Now, if you are counting, you're trying to count a numerical variable and you get sum, this is where you can change from sum to count. In our case, we have the count, we still want that, but we're going to change the way the value is displayed by clicking on show values as. And then from here, we're going to select, instead of no calculation, we're going to select % of grand total. And if we click on OK, all of these counts now convert to percentages. And so now these are the relative percentages. These are the values that you would get if you divided 107 by 250, you would get 42.8, and 74 by 250, you would get 29.6, and so forth. So these are the relative frequencies. And there's one more kind of frequency table that we can make very easily from Excel, and that's the cumulative frequency. So in a cumulative frequency table, the top row is the same, but then each row after that, it's the count that appears here plus any previous values. And so that it adds up to the grand total. The last row is the grand total. So again, we can go to highlight column C, select insert, pivot table, and then existing worksheet. I'm also going to just put it right here. And then again, we see the similar display. We check age, it'll go to the rows. Get rid of the blank. Drag age down here to values. Click on count of age, value field settings, save values as, and then under the calculation box, if you scroll all the way down, you get running total. And that's how it calculates the cumulative frequency. And so now you see it no longer displays the grand total because the last row is the grand total. The first row is the same as our previous count. And then between 40 and 60 is now the sum of 107 and 74. And then less than 20, this next level is going to be between 107, 74 plus 21. And so forth. Now, one thing that you should keep in mind when you're dealing with variables that are technically ordered, these values will display in alphabetical order. So depending on how you label these are not in an order that makes sense in terms of their ages. It's only alphabetical. So this is something you may have to reorganize once you've got the table set up the way that you want.